And we are back again. Once again, Bill is here with us. And this is actually our last football discussion of the year because this week ends football season for the 2023 season over there at Gillette. Got things going off. Before we get into all that, what's like your overall, your overall assessment of this year's football season?
I think there's some surprises for sure. I mean, I think that I feel like we had a lot of questions going into the season and we got answers. And I think we got some unexpected teams. I'm not saying unexpected teams, but teams that made their way to the playoffs that may not have looked like real championship teams at the beginning of the year. I'll include the Prep in that. They're a team that grew during the course of this year, and of course Salem football. They had to chip away and prove game after game, week after week, that they were this team, and they've defined themselves. And here they find themselves in a championship game on Thursday afternoon, as well. So I think that it's. And then you look at other teams around, teams that had their ups and downs and so on. So there's a lot of uncertainty, I think, in this football season. Yeah,
definitely. Injuries. That's what I'll take. There was a lot of injuries. A lot of teams got hit with that injury bug that affected their season, and man, it was some teams who had good potential. They caught the injury bug at the wrong time, and it kind of ended the tail end of the season for them. So that's one of my biggest.
I heard this story. Bryce Lehman from Bishop Fenwick. I was at their opening game at Marblehead on a Friday night back in September. He gets injured early in the game. He was going to lead this team to some very nice things this year, senior quarterback. He goes out in that game, does not come back until Thanksgiving Day against Masconomet. He does play some in that game, and it was really iffy that he was even going to play any, but he just played a bit in that game, but made some, a couple of touchdown passes, ran okay, and so on. So, here's a guy that bookended the season for sure. Right at the very beginning and then right at the very end. A big name, really, but a big injury, as you were pointing out, too, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And we got the biggest game that people have been looking forward to this for years. For years, these two teams, they just never are able to get to the championship game at the same time. It'd be either one gets there and the other doesn't. But this year we had Xaverian, St. John's Prep, the Catholic Conference rivals, just played a week ago. Now they're playing again. So much storylines for this story, so much history. I think this is probably one of the perfect ending for both schools to just see each other in the last game of the season.
Yeah, and they played each other at just a 2-point game, won by Xaverian on a last second field goal on Thanksgiving Day, handing the Prep their only loss of the season. Despite what we heard from the coaches, or at least from Brian St. Pierre, St. John's Prep, that that they were there to win the game. I think they did hold things back on Thanksgiving Day for sure. And so the team that played on Thanksgiving may not be the exact same performance that we'll see Wednesday night at Gillette in the D1 championship game. But that looks to be all of what you said is absolutely true. I mean, it should be a great game. Number 1 seed versus the number 2 seed. Just a 2-point game on Thanksgiving, whatever you take out of that. But they're on a neutral field. They're on a neutral field now, not down at Xaverian. And the Prep, the coach was saying, it's how often do you get a second chance at a team in this scenario? Not too often. So they have it. It's the big game. Yeah.
And there's some injuries on Xaverian's side. I know two of their guys offensively. I think the receiver Montero and the running back Pierre got some injuries. I don't think it's going to keep them out, but I know Montero had an ankle injury after the Springfield Central game, and Pierre, he also had an injury as well, but he fought through it. He looked fine through the rest of the game, so that's also something to monitor. And then the key for this game is containing the quarterback Hasselback, and on the other side, it's containing that rushing attack, because we've seen when they want to force their will, they will force their will, and if you can't stop it, they're just going to keep coming at you until you show them you can stop it.
Yeah, again, right on. I mean, the Prep will run the football, and they've run it against everybody this year, and so they'll try to do it again on Wednesday night at Gillette against the Varian. The other thing too is they also do mix in a pretty effective passing game with that run game with Deacon Robillard, who's had a very nice season. He's done, I think, exactly what they've needed him to do. They've had standout quarterbacks there before. He may be that standout quarterback someday, but right now he's just getting the job done and doing what they need. So they've got a nice attack, and if they can keep Xaverian a little off balance on Wednesday night, they'll be able to move the football, put some points on. And the one thing the coach did mention in the game, Brian St. Pierre, is that he thought his defense could play a lot better than they did on Thanksgiving. And so usually if he has a few days to prepare, he'll have his team ready.
Yeah, definitely. And Xaverian, they're also one of the team. They do love to run the ball a lot, as well as Xaverian. They love to run the ball a lot, but they do have those skill guys. And when you have a quarterback like Hasselback, it opens so much what he can do as far as creating more opportunities with his legs or throwing on the run. They're so. I mean, watching both of these teams play, I feel like this is set up to be quite the matchup. And also, what I'm going to look to is who makes the least mistakes. It's going to come down to who doesn't turn the ball over, or who doesn't. If they go for it on fourth down, who converts and who doesn't. So little things like that.
And big plays, preventing the big plays for each team wants to stop big plays against them for sure. So that's another key as well. Yeah.
And for Brian St. Pierre, if he wins this, we just start looking at his resume in these big games. He wins this, he'll knock off. It'll be the third time he knocks off a Catholic Conference opponent in a big game, and then you just look at how he's been able to win these big games throughout his tenure. It's just it's amazing, and you just look at him. You're just like, this is one of the best coach we have out here in the state.
Yeah, and again, I've only seen them I think in person, maybe just the one time, I guess, but seen them on TV a few times on video. But I mean, this could be one of his better coaching jobs too, in putting this team together with the talent that he has, and mixing it all together and figuring it all out, and with some injuries this year as well, in the mix for them as well. So, yeah, a good point on him. He's a terrific coach.
Do you know if the running back Dylan Aliberti will be playing, or is he not?
I don't know. I don't think he played. He didn't play on Thanksgiving. Yeah, so I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play or not. Yeah.
Yeah, and he didn't play. He didn't play in the semifinal game. I saw him. He was in the boot in the semifinal game against Andover. So he hasn't played at all since that injury against Catholic Memorial. So I'll be curious to see if he'll be able, because not sure. It must be very severe if he was still in the boot just a couple of weeks ago. So
right.
Maybe we'll see him. And then Salem. I became a believer in Salem after that Lynn Classical game, and then as I look back at their schedule and just seeing the offensive outputs that they've had with these 50-point games, 40-point games, 40-point games, 50-point games, it's just remarkable what this team has been doing, and to have not only that, defensively too. Their defense has played really well in this postseason.
No, they have, and it's funny. I was jotting down the playoff scores from each team before I talked to Coach Matt Bouchard of Salem this week, and I wrote down one score twice by mistake. I was rushing it, and the score that I changed from the 55-0 score was to change it to the 34-16 score they had against Stoner or something like that. So in other words, I'm looking at these two teams, Fairhaven and Salem, and looking at the scores, and I'm thinking, oh wow, these scores are pretty similar. Yet to find out that I'd missed the 55-0 score. So Salem scoring more points than Fairhaven, a bit more. Both teams giving up some, but this will be a tough team. This is one of those teams when you get to this point in these playoffs, the way they're constructed now with the power rankings, that you're going to be facing a solid team. I mean, you're not going to be facing a team that has any holes. And this Fairhaven team can run the ball. They're well coached. They're solid. So Salem's got to be prepared. They've met challenges this year. They've had a great playoff run, as has Fairhaven. But this will be, for Salem, this is great for them to be in this situation, a big game, and at Gillette Stadium.
It might be the most, if they are able to pull this off, it might be, out of all the division, it might be their most impressive run that, for me personally, just to see from a team, just in the way they've won each of their games and just how their season have gone. It'll probably be the most impressive run out of all the divisions for me, I think.
Yeah, and the thing is with this, there's two things that I say about Salem. Salem has great athletes. They have some really good athletes on that team. And you saw the Classical game. Classical has some very good athletes on their team as well. Salem, in Classical, they have some of the best athletes. They may have a couple of the best athletes between the two teams, but Salem has a cluster of guys that are really good, solid athletes, have been playing it, since sophomores and freshmen or whatever with the team. And they are very experienced. They're now very experienced in big games. The other thing, if you look at comparative scores, Fairhaven, their opponent, Salem's opponent, did beat Winthrop in the playoffs, the opening game in the playoffs. Winthrop is the team that handed Salem that 1-point loss down at Winthrop earlier this year that I saw that game. I don't think Salem played their best game that night. I really don't, but I do think Winthrop is a very solid team. And I talked to Coach Bouchard about that. I asked him, explain that to me. Why, here's fair, when you play the comparative scoring game, score game, there are a lot of tangibles here that they're not all equal kind of things. And I guess, it's one of those things, a team like Fairhaven, if they get ahead of you, it's tough to come back. And I think that might have been the case in the Winthrop contest. Although I have seen Winthrop come back this year, but anyways, I think that's one of those things that, Winthrop played a great game against Salem, and Salem had opportunities to put that game away. And I think some of it's on Salem on that game. Having said that, though, what a great game for them to pull off against Lynn Classical. That's their defining game, as you said. As far as I'm concerned, this year, it's just a huge win for them. Of course, in the playoff run, those games are critically important for them as well. Knocking off Stoneham, but just a solid program as well. But you're right, that Classical game, made me a believer for sure as well, just like you.
And this is a big play offense. They can strike quick. They can strike quick and they can strike fast. I mean, we saw two touchdowns before their offense even hit the field against Stoneham. So they're a threat on every aspect, offensively, defensively, and special teams, to score at any of those points. So I'm excited to see what happens on Thursday.
They're like any team, they have a multiple guys on when you get to this point, any team at this point has got to have some solid defensive players, and Salem does have theirs. You come away from that Classical game. What was that final? 48-44, something like that.
Yes.
So you're thinking, okay, defenses, really, how important were you in that game when it's 48-44? But Salem has had some big plays on defense, as you were pointing out, especially in some of these playoff games this year, and in particular that Stoneham game. So the thing is, playing this Fairhaven team requires them to do some different things. But this is a well-coached team, Salem, as well, as we were talking about. So you got to think they're going to be ready for what Fairhaven will present. Both these teams, by the way, both won their Thanksgiving games going into this contest.
No, right. So it definitely should be a good one. Will you be at any of the games this week?
I'm going to be at them all. I'm going to be I'll be at see the prep Wednesday night at Gillette. Salem game will be there, and also going the next day, Friday, to see Amesbury out of the Cape Ann League. And they're a lower seeded team, but they've had a great playoff run, great season. And speaking of well coached, Colin McQueen at Amesbury does a terrific job as well. So we'll see. So I'm there. I'm ready. I'm back at the games.
All right, yeah, I think I'll be there for 2 days. I'll be there Wednesday and Thursday, and then high school basketball officially kicks off for me Friday. So,
oh wow!
Yeah.
Well, you could go to the Amesbury, you can go to Gillette, and then come back to basketball.
Well, I'm going to be in Stoughton, right? So I might, depending on the time.
There you go.
I'm going to be in Stoughton, so I might go to one game and then come back. All right. Make sure to plug in your website, and who are you talking with this week?
Yeah, well, I know you won't be slacking, whatever it is. I know that. Well, the website's msonewsports.com, msonewsports.com. We have interviews up there with the three coaches that we just talked about: Brian St. Pierre from St. John's Prep, Matt Bouchard from Salem High School, and Colin McQueen from Amesbury. That interview will be up on Wednesday. Yeah, on Wednesday. No, maybe it's on Thursday. No, it'd be on Wednesday. My mistake. Wednesday, and we'll have some other features as well leading up to the Super Bowl, and then our coverage of the Super Bowls as well. So,
alrighty, sir. Thank you once again. It's been a pleasure. This was fun. It's a fun ride we had here.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. Have a great super week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.